Let's talk about Pete Hegseth, who is in day whatever of an ongoing firestorm. It's been building for a while, but it's getting, I don't know if it's at its apex now or if we're about to get to the apex, but it's climbing, where he fired these alleged leakers. He accused these three guys, the Pentagon, and Pete signed off of it. These three guys at the Pentagon of leaking material that would have included top secret information to NBC News about attack plans in Panama. And said, we've gotten our guys. We feel satisfied. We're going to continue our investigation. But, I'm satisfied these are the people involved. They've all denied it. And then, was the subject of a barrage of bad press every day thereafter. That happened on Friday. It had this guy over in the comms shop who I guess they really didn't love, and he didn't want to be number two in the shop, and I guess that's all that was available to him. In any event, he left. He wrote a scathing piece in Politico, which is not exactly where right-wingers run. Don Jr. disavowed that guy and said, he's not part of our movement. Don't believe this guy. And then the other three, at least one of them sat down with Tucker Carlson and said, this isn't about my alleged leaking, which I didn't do. This is about my position on Iran and being more dovish. The other two haven't really spoken out, I think, other than to deny that they're leakers. And now the narrative is building everywhere because there's not a strong MAGA media. Online in the digital lane, you've got MAGA supporters, but there's not a publication like the Journal or the Post or the Times that's pro-Trump where you can kind of go to hear the MAGA defense. So you've got the Journal ripping on him. This morning I listened to this podcast. Sometimes I listen to Potomac Watch, which is the Journal editorial board people.
Right. Yeah, that's Paul.
Ripped him to shreds, right? Chaos. And it's just really too much chaos so he has to go, which to me seems like, well, you can't fire somebody because of chaos. We have to see if the chaos is real and what caused the chaos, and then determine whether that's on him, right? In any event, you can see him twisting. So far, Trump is saying that he's standing behind him, but for how long remains a fair question. MBD, your thoughts on it?
Well, I'll be totally frank. I actually know one of the fired people involved, Dan Caldwell, the one who was on Tucker Carlson. I've known him for about 6 or 7 years. I find the idea that he would leak to liberal press absolutely preposterous, and I would stake quite a bet that he did not leak to NBC at all, and certainly that he didn't leak classified information. And I believe him when he says he didn't. There are reports today in Politico. There was a long report saying that there was actually less ideology than meets the eye in this internal knife fight, that in fact it was fueled by jealousy from another Hegseth chief of staff, Joe Casper, who's
just been moved out of that post.
Right. He was the one who supposedly initiated the investigation that led to the firing of those three staffers. And then he is now being pushed into a new role. Why? Hasn't been, I think, adequately.
I can report that he's not the decision maker, however. I can tell you that.
Right. Of course, he shouldn't. The buck stops with Hegseth. So Hegseth was obviously convinced that these three people did something wrong. I know Dan Caldwell to be a very loyal person who believes he becomes more effective by serving his boss well and then being handed more responsibility. And that's kind of marked his career. And I would stand by his reputation. I don't know. Colin was another one of these people fired. I don't know him well. And another one, Selnick, it doesn't seem to have politics at all, as far as I can tell. No political record. He just has a record of reform in veterans affairs that I think was very strong during the first Trump administration. And we don't know, MBD.
It could be that one of these guys is the suspected leaker and the other two have shrapnel wounds. I have no idea. But you're right. I haven't been able to determine, what did the other two have to do with it? Caldwell seems to be the face of it. And I'm not sure what the relation. It sounds like these three knew each other and were friendly with Pete too, which is to your point about this might have at least started with some sort of internal personality clashes or power struggles.
Right. These three have definitely been in same networks together, and networks together with veterans networks together that Pete Hegseth was a part of before he became head of the DOD. So people who are not privileged in that way may have been jealous of their influence, even if there was no political content to that jealousy. At the same time, there are politics to this, and it is interesting to see that there are people now rallying to Pete's side this week who 3 or 4 weeks ago were saying that what he did on the Signal chat was worth resigning over.
Let me ask you that. Is that more neocon-y people? Because it's very interesting to watch the factions, because Caldwell goes on with Tucker and says, what really was behind my termination is I am dovish on Iran. I do not think we should be bombing Iran through Israel or any other way. And now you have people who would like us to bomb Iran. Like, is Pete so bad? Because they're deducing maybe Pete's on the opposite side.
Well, I think there's fear that if Pete Hegseth goes, who replaces him? It could be someone already in the Department of Defense, someone like Elbridge Colby, who has said like, oh, we can contain Iran. Ukraine is a tertiary issue. We need to focus on China. That would be seen as a bigger threat. And Colby is a established kind of old school Republican hand. He's sort of like out of central casting from, the 1950s through 70s and knows where the bodies are buried. He could be very effective. Whereas people may think Pete Hegseth, is not totally in the camp of the restrainers and not totally in the camp of the hawks, but, wants to serve his president. And the president himself is not, hyper ideological on these questions. The president is willing to strike Iran, is willing, to take out Soleimani, is willing to bomb them, and has said that Iran can't have Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, and he's willing to make the ground shake in order to bring that bring that fact into existence. So it's very the person who leads the Department of Defense is extremely consequential. And so it's not a surprise that there's intense rivalry. I mean, this is the biggest human organization on the planet. What you'd like to see is for Hegseth to succeed, and Dan Caldwell said he wants Hegseth to succeed on the Tucker Carlson show. I think Hegseth has to assert a very firm chain of command at which he's at the top. There are no more rivalrous factions below him, that any rivalries that exist to serve him and to serve the president, right? To get the best advice, to get the best diversity of perspectives ahead of a major decision, and not to have this kind of knife fighting. Because, I mean, it seems to me like a lot of people have been fired that can make a good contribution to our national security. And I think it's a shame.
We just don't know what they know. If some evidence comes out that they actually were funneling top secret information to NBC News, they'd have to be fired. Like, I have no idea whether that's coming, but I'm just saying, for example, that would be a no-brainer. And we don't know, but it certainly appears that some faction of these four, that comms guy, Elliott is his last name, or these three accused but denying that they are leakers, are leaking to the press right now, because Pete's on the other end of a battering ram since they got fired on Friday. It's like the New York Times had a long hit piece. Politico's had repeated hit pieces. NPR is reporting that they're looking for a new Pentagon chief, but that's one anonymous source, and NPR is not exactly known for its Trump world exclusives. So I don't know.
George Clooney might be more plugged in than NPR.
Yeah, seriously. So it's like, if I saw that from like Fox News, I'd pay attention. But yeah, I don't really know about the NPR sourcing there. I want to play this for you, Rich. Vice President Vance weighed in on Hegseth just this morning. Here's what he said.
Look, I have 100% confidence in the secretary. I know the president does, and really the entire team does. It's one of the most bizarre things about the Hegseth nomination. From the very beginning, the media seemed to want to tank it. And when they failed and they got confirmed, they decided they wanted to keep on that effort to destroy Pete Hegseth as the man as the Secretary of Defense. I think he's doing a great job. I think that he's brought a certain spirit back to the Department of Defense. And if you look at our military recruitment numbers, that's, in my view, the best testament to his leadership of the military is that for the first time in a very long time, we don't have terrible recruitment problems in the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. That's a great testament to his leadership. And I wish, frankly, the press talked more about that and not about anonymous sourcing from random staffers.
The recruiting numbers are good. They're very good, Rich. But look, you and I both know that they always say they're standing behind the person until they
it's never 80% support, right? It's always 100%.
So it's like almost meaningless to play those sound bites in all fairness. But at least publicly, Monday and Tuesday now, or I guess Monday and Wednesday, we've had direct sound bites from the president and vice president saying they are fully behind Pete.
Yeah. So you're right in what you said at the top of this segment. You got this dynamic going in the media where there are headlines about chaos at the Pentagon and there are headlines about chaos at the Pentagon, right? So they want to create this phenomenon. And very often it works. It's not going to work with Trump. I wouldn't expect him to be dumped over this anytime soon. But what's disturbing, and it relates to what JD said, right? Because JD went right to Pete's strength, right? Inspirational figure, more recruiting. People want to go and be in that organization that he's going to devote to war fighting. When people want to sign up for the military, that's why they want to do it, right? So everyone who's in favor of his nomination said he's a change agent, jolt of energy, better recruiting, great communicator. All that's true. But no one said he's a great administrator, and we're extremely confident he can run the Pentagon. And what's disturbing about this, it'd be one thing if the building just randomly, the establishment were shooting at him, and I'm sure it is, but this was a war, an ugly war for power and influence among his people, his loyalists,
that he brought
he brought in to help him run the building. So I still think the big question is, now, some people have, rocky starts to when they take major steps in responsibility like this, and they figure it out, they learn from it, and it evens out. But there is a bigger question now, whether he'll be able to run the building. And this thing about the signal chat, who knows? We haven't seen a journalist wasn't CC'd on that, so we haven't actually seen them. But it just feels to me, when you're roping in your wife, your brother, your lawyer, you are someone who feels embattled, doesn't know who to trust, and you're going down to this core of the very most loyal people you have. And that's just, you're not going to be able to run the building that way, right? He needs some big chief of staff who can really do this job. That's probably not within his current circle of trust, but he has to develop trust with. And this just isn't easy. A lot of people aren't managers, and this is a huge managerial job. So I don't think he's going to get ousted for this. I would expect them to continue to support him, but I think there are concerns whether he can figure this out, and he needs to start figuring it out because it's a big job, and everyone should want him to succeed.
I mean, I'll say this, MBD, this second signal text chain was reportedly with Pete, with his brother and his lawyer, both of whom are Pentagon employees now, and his wife, who's not, and some other collection, and I don't know who they are. Okay, I'm told that what's on there was declassified, like that he didn't share any classified information. But let me say this. Where was this leftist freak out when Joe Biden had Jill Biden at cabinet meetings, sitting at the Resolute desk with his jacket on the back of her chair? She shepherded him around to every official function. We have no idea whether she was secretly our president, but she absolutely was at cabinet meetings. They didn't care at all.
No, and not only that, her close aide was also responsible for guarding the president from staff and from other cabinet members. From the reporting we've seen, we saw that after the debate, Hunter Biden then came in and started performing that role, and there was no sign of outrage. This was just a family coming together to help their man in distress, and
he loves his son. He loves his son.
Counsel, one interesting possibility brought up. One thing I think people could look out for in the following days is, are the leaks still coming? So, and are they coming from within the Pentagon?
Mark my words.
Okay, so they're not done. If they are, could it really be these three guys? I mean, if they're leaking stuff that's actively in the Pentagon. And secondly, Caldwell pointed to the Defense Policy Board, which is not really a well-known institution, but this is something that is filled with Biden-era appointments like Susan Rice, Michelle Flournoy, Michael Hanlon of Brookings. Lots of Biden-era people are still on it. They haven't met since the Trump administration has taken office, but they all have security clearances. They all have access to career employees in the Department of Defense. And, that is not an unreasonable place to look for leaks.
Tariff wars, stubborn inflation, no wonder gold has been routinely hitting all-time highs. In volatile markets like the one we have now, don't sit on the sidelines with your head in the sand. You can take control and safeguard your savings. That's why so many Americans today are turning to Birch Gold Group. They have helped tens of thousands convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in physical gold. Is it time for you to hedge against economic instability with gold? To learn how to own physical gold in a tax-sheltered account, text MK to 989898. Birch Gold will send you a free, no-obligation info kit. Again, just text MK to the number 989898. With an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau and countless 5-star reviews, Birch Gold has helped many protect their savings with gold. It took us decades to get into the tangled mess they're trying to unpack now in D.C. How long will it take to get us out? And at what cost? Text MK to 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.